All right, welcome back, everybody, to the 19th week of our Tech Bytes JavaScript session. Wow, we are nearing the 5-month mark. Crazy how fast time flies. If you are joining us from the web development course, welcome back to the 11th week of our web development course. We have been doing a lot of coding, learning a lot of new concepts, applying them throughout the past couple of weeks, almost for the past month, and today are just adding the fine finishing touches and having a bit of a more relaxed day compared to our other code intense days. But as always, glad to see you guys are here. Glad you guys are joining us. Spread the word. And without any further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, if you do not already know who I am, my name is Rayon Siddiqui. I am a senior at James B. Conner High School. I love to program. I made multiple apps for the App Store, made a dozen different websites, and really like making content, whether it be writing articles on the side regarding computer science and the reach it has, or just making some YouTube videos regarding tech. Or furthermore, I lead a sports talk show with some of my friends on YouTube. You can search it up called Buzzer to Buzzer as well. But as always, if you want to find out what I've been up to in the past couple of weeks, you can always check out my website at rayonsiddiqui.com. All right, so now let's get down to today's agenda. Now, before we get started, just want to throw it out there, like I previously said, today is going to be of a bit more relaxed day. I know that for the past 5 weeks, we have been doing a lot of new coding topics, learning a lot more math involved with our code, specifically that day where we learned all about trigonometry functions. And this week, since we have now officially finished the JavaScript and HTML of our calculator project, this week's going to be a bit more relaxed, in which we're going to be just doing a longer fun fact. This fun fact actually relating to something which just happened today, and sort of a history lesson as well. Then after that, we're going to be going over a extension of our calculator project, talking about how we can make it in design to make it look nicer through utilizing the CSS. Remember the CSS component of our website. And then if we have time, we're just going to introduce our next project. Not going to start coding it today, just introduce the idea and what it will entail. But yeah, we have earned a little bit of a lighter day today. So without any further ado, let's get to it. All right, and a quick reminder, guys, that before we do get started with our daily fun fact, a reminder about our October schedule. Remember, all of our programs, including the Intro to Programming course, Hack Central, which both happen every other Monday, so alternating. If you were here this past Monday, we did have our Hack Central program, but like Intro to Programming, Hack Central, and our web development course, all three of these are now starting at 3:30 p.m., going until around 4:15, 4:30-ish. Now, our teen trivia for this month of October is still going from 3 p.m. Let us know if that is any problem. We can always shift our schedule. We're very flexible to make it work with you guys. But yeah, just remember that. And if you have any questions, you can always drop them in the chat or communicate with me through the Google Classroom. All right, so now let's get towards today's cool JavaScript fun fact of the day, where we relate the programming language which we are studying to a relatable fun fact. That being a pretty big one. The fact reads, Node.js, remember, a JavaScript version of a back-end language, saved an Italian astronaut, Lucas Parmitano, hopefully I'm not pronouncing that incorrectly, that an Italian astronaut, Lucas Parmitano's life in 2013 when he was on a spacewalk out in space and water started to leak inside of his spacesuit. Whoa. Okay, let's dissect that piece by piece. So essentially what we're saying is that using Node.js, which remember is essentially JavaScript, but it's a back-end version of JavaScript, the programming language was able to save an astronaut who is thousands of miles away from us in space. Whoa, okay, that's pretty cool. So let's think about how is that even possible. So essentially, let me give you guys a bit of a context as to what was happening. So Lucas Parmitano and another astronaut named Chris Cassidy, they were aboard the International Space Station. And fun fact, 3 astronauts today were sent up to the International Space Station. They are always switching in and forth. If you remember when we started our web developing course, we were talking about Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, the 2 astronauts who went through the SpaceX spaceship up to the International Space Station. Well, today, 3 other astronauts went up there, and another fun fact, one of those astronauts will be voting from space. Something cool to talk about. But essentially, Lucas Parmitano, the astronaut we're talking about, and another astronaut called named Chris Cassidy, they were aboard the International Space Station doing a spacewalk. Now, for some reason, some type of something goes wrong in Lucas Parmitano's spacesuit. Now, if you've not already seen a spacesuit, spacesuits have hundreds of different parts. Although they're just something which we are wearing in space to cover our bodies, the amount of functioning parts which they have is crazy. To the whole science and the whole way that the machinery works together to allow for spacesuits to be capable of making spacewalks is truly amazing. That's the story for another day. But essentially, when Lucas Parmitano was outside doing a spacewalk, something opened a latch, which all of a sudden led to water being leaked inside of his astronaut face bubble. Now, as we can tell, if we take a look at this picture where my cursor is, that's a pretty small space. And if water starts to fill up there, we know that in space there's no gravity. Water is going to start going all over the place inside of his nose, his ears, and mouth, not to mention in front of his face, blurring his vision, right? Well, that's very dangerous, to say the least. Now comes the question, how did JavaScript and Node.js come to the rescue? Well, whenever an astronaut or a team of astronauts, like right now, is aboard the International Space Station, there's always a ground crew working. Usually, NASA has a headquarters based in the Johnson Space Center or the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And essentially, they have a team of very talented computer programmers and software engineers who needed to use the data about the spacesuit in order to figure out what went wrong. Now, in the moment, Lucas Parmitano, the astronaut whose spacesuit started to leak water into the head, his partner, Chris Cassidy, she pulled him inside into the space station, making sure that he was well. Luckily, he did stay alive, and they were not able to complete the spacewalk. Now, immediately, NASA wants to figure out what went wrong. Why did our $1 million spacesuit all of a sudden have this type of malfunction? Well, the team firstly had to gather data. Now, we talked about how important data is, right? And data in this situation is very important. Now, that data pertained to what parts were working in what type of manner in that exact moment when the water started to leak into Lucas Parmitano's spacesuit. Well, there was one major problem with acquiring that data. That being the data about the spacesuit, such as which valves were open, how much oxygen was being intaked into the spacesuit at one given point. All of that data was spread across multiple databases. So let's think about that in a logical sense. Essentially, all of the important data regarding the spacesuit was in tens of different places. So if we think about it like, say, an analogy with clothes, we want to pick out an outfit at the morning of the day, right? Well, that's saying that my socks are in the laundry room, my pants, they're in the attic, my shirt is in the kitchen, my watch is outside, and my shoes, they're in the car. Whoa, I'm going to have to run up and down the house everywhere to get my stuff. That's so inefficient, and it's going to take me a lot of time. Well, the programmers down at NASA initially had this problem as well, because all the data, like all my items which I'm wearing, they were all spread across and allocated in tens of different places. Well, this is where Node.js and JavaScript comes into hand, because with the help of Node.js being a back-end programming language, it works very nicely with combining data and shifting it and moving it, storing it, analyzing it into one main database. And in this case, Node.js was very effective because it combined, meaning bringing all the data from all the different pieces, all the different parts and locations into one cumulative location. And this was very helpful because once the team had accomplished this in a couple of hours, the spacesuit and all the details regarding the spacesuit, the NASA engineers were able to query, that's a fancy word for saying request data about the spacesuit. So with this being done with all the data in one central location, like our analogy, with all of my clothes, like my socks, my shoes, my pants, my shirt, all the things being on my bed, and in this case, all the information being in one database as compared to several databases, the NASA engineers were able to find the root cause of what allowed this valve to open and water to all of a sudden start leaking inside of the astronauts' spacesuit. And it was a pretty big day for NASA because previously a lot of data regarding astronauts was similar in the sense that it was all spread out. However, after this incident, NASA did make a transition, a very big transition, into shifting data into one place to allow and make sure that if something like this in the future happens, hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, the engineers can smack down the problem, find out the root cause, and get the solution right away. Now, before we watch a quick clip, this is using Node.js. A fun statistic is that the engineers were able to find out information 300%, 300 times faster than compared to before. Now, if that doesn't blow our socks away, that's pretty cool. Thinking about how using the language, which we are learning about, the team at NASA, who has such a big responsibility of getting our astronauts to space and bringing them back, they were able to help the astronaut out and ensure a safe bringing back and ensuring the best of health is something truly awesome to think about. And like every other week we do, guys, this week's fun fact just went to show us one more time the amazing reach and impact which we can have with the language which we are studying today of JavaScript. So here is a quick little video by ABC News about the whole incident. And I think this is pretty cool to see how they reported the whole incident as well. So let me share my screen. All right, there we go. So let's watch this before we go any further.
This actually is a serious story about a pretty harrowing spacewalk outside the International Space Station.
The search for what went wrong is well underway right now, and we get the unbelievable details from ABC's Gina Sinceri of Houston.
Spacewalks are dangerous, but when Italian astronaut Luca Parmitano started complaining about, well, something wet inside his helmet, his spacewalking partner Chris Cassidy did a double take.
I see he's a sweat. No, it's not sweat. It's not sweat.
Hey, Luca, can you clarify, is it increasing or not increasing?
It's hard to tell, but it feels like a lot of water.
Water in his helmet?
Yes, if there's enough water, he certainly had that risk today, and that's why we took it so seriously.
That's right. She said Luca Parmitano was in danger of drowning in his spacesuit, orbiting 260 miles above planet Earth. It was only his second time out on a spacewalk.
I feel a lot of water on the back of my head, but I don't think it seeps from my back. Are you sweating? Are you working hard? Yes, sweating, but it feels like a lot of water.
It was roughly 2 glasses of water inside his helmet. Mission Control immediately aborted the spacewalk.
Luca, we'll have you head back to the airline.
His crewmates inside yank off his helmet and grab towels to dry him off. It will take a couple of days before engineers figure out just what went wrong, if the water came from his hydration bag or from the cooling tubes that run through his spacesuit. Ironically, just a day ago, he posted this video as a joke showing how he keeps his shiny head clean. Gina Sinceri, ABC News at the Johnson Space Center in Houston.
Wow, right? Pretty cool to see how a life-threatening situation was able to be avoided with the language of JavaScript. One second. There we go. All right. All right. So hopefully that was interesting. A bit of a longer fun fact for the day. However, I think it was pretty cool to bring up and talk about on a day like today when 3 astronauts were being sent up to the International Space Station. So now, guys, let's move on towards our project, which we have been working very diligently and hard on for the past month and a half almost now. that being the calculator project. Now, guys, we have officially last week finished the whole calculator project, adding all of the last features. Last week, we specifically worked on the random number generator, and the basic idea we have officially finished now. Our calculator can perform basic arithmetic operations, and we took it a step further. It can not only do basic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, we also added square root functionality. We added trigonometry functions like sine, cosine, tangent. We added a random number generator as well, and some other features like a clear button, which just made our calculator even better. And the core concepts which we covered throughout this project were variables, functions, loops, parameters, along with many others using the DOM to manipulate our HTML. And yeah, it's officially finished now. If you are confused as to where can I find the code relating to the project, all of the code along with what we covered each separate week can always be found on our Google Classroom page in the classwork tab area. If you have any problems, you can always shoot me a message or through Zoom or through the classroom as well. Last week, as I mentioned, we did add our final feature of the random number generator, in which we were able to input two separate numbers like 1 through 10, and then we would be generated with a random number between that range. So say I had a number between 1 and 10, I would be generated with a number like 5, 7, 8. We even made it inclusive of the number 10. Learn about the formula behind that and all that good stuff last week as well. And then this week, we are going to be utilizing some CSS. Now, can anybody remember what CSS is used for a part in our website creation process? Remember, it is part of the trio of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We've talked about how HTML and JavaScript go very well together. In HTML, we can have buttons. Buttons are linked to functions in our JavaScript. Well, but anybody remember, where does the CSS come into play? And the answer is CSS is used for styling and making our web page or whatever project we are working on, make it look nicer and tune it up a bit. And that is what we will be doing today. Over our web development course and the whole JavaScript course we've been doing now for a near 5 months, we've taken a lot of time devoting our time to HTML and JavaScript. And I feel like today would be the perfect time with a finished project to go over how we can apply some CSS, and we're going to be going through the mindset of finding how to do it from scratch. So essentially, there's no more template I'm providing now, but instead, we're just going to scour the internet, find some good websites like W3 Schools, and then use some code, apply to our code, and make our calculator project look even nicer. So without any further ado, let's get to it. I'm going to be opening up my project, and I hope you guys do the same. If you cannot find the link, guys, as always, just open up the Google Classroom, and I will show you if you are confused as to where you can find it. Now head on over to the Classwork tab, then go to our Week 18 recap, the calculator template fiddle, and that is the one we shall be working with. Give everybody a quick minute to open that up. All right. Hopefully you have made your own way to the website. And if for a quick refresher, here is our finished version of our calculator. We have come a long way, guys, considering if you go back a couple, about 5 videos ago in the playlist, you'll see how we began with just an empty white screen with a couple of buttons and 1-digit operation with addition. However, now we have added so much. We can do like 22 times 5, get an answer. We added a clear button. We can do even 3-digit operations like 963 or minus 63, get an answer. Oh, 29. Like if you do 99 minus 63, we should get an answer. There we go, 36. And we also have square root functionality and much more. As you can see, we also have the sine, cosine, and tangent functionality as well. And here is the random number generator feature. 1 through 10 gives us a random number between that range of 3. So yeah, we did a lot with the HTML and JavaScript, but how about now we get toward making this look nice? Sure, it's on a black and white contrast right now, but how about we start adding some color, making it look a bit nicer, adding some color to the buttons, to the background, and yeah, let's see how far we can get with that idea. So firstly, what I'm going to do is add a background color to our calculator. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is firstly make some space for me to type in the CSS area. Once you have done that, what I'm going to do is type body and then open and close parentheses. And then we can do simply background color colon. And then I'm going to set it equal to, how about we do, let's see how blue looks like. I'll let it run. Oh, I believe. I have selected an incorrect color. 1 second. Oh, I believe yep, okay, so we do not need the quotations. And then we just need body, open and close squiggly brackets, and then background color. Set it to whatever color you'd like. There are a bunch. You can choose any. I'll do blue. Oh, that looks a bit too much for the eye. So what if I do a color like light steel blue? Let's see how that looks like. Much better. Much better shade, right? All right, so we're getting there, adding some color. All right. Next, what I'm going to do is add some color to this header called the Tech Bytes calculator. So what I'm going to do to add some color, firstly, is we are going to give our header tag an ID. So I'm going to do is say ID equals calculator title, like such. Remember, we have to give our specific element right here an ID so that we can reference it in our, not only our JavaScript, but also our CSS. So in order to reference it, what I'm going to do is go right here, do the hashtag, because whenever we are referencing an ID tag in our CSS, we always use the hashtag. Hashtag, I'm going to do the name of our calculator. So hashtag calculator title, open and close parentheses. And then what I'm going to do is we can just do color. And then what if I set it equal to blue? And voila. Adding some more color, making it look nicer. I believe we can also do navy blue. Is that if you do navy, that looks better. That contrast, right? And now we can also actually add some fonts and make our header look even nicer. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is not type from what I remember, like from my own knowledge. I sort of want to go through how I would go about adding CSS if I were starting out new, how I would scour the internet and find resources in order to help myself and make this project. So what I'm going to do is CSS font property, and I'm going to reference a website called W3 School. That is a pretty good website. Look at the first link is the right one. And let's open up example. Okay, so this is how W3 Schools is doing it. So this is what I'm going to do as well. So I'm going to essentially just grab this code, which is telling me I can set it equal to the Arial font. Head on over back. And then I'm going to drop it in here inside of the tag for my title. Hit run. Let's see if that font looks like it is not supported. Let's see why. Oh, it might be because we are in an online environment compared to a IDE. Okay, so how about we don't do any fonts for this, but it's cool to see how we can go online on a different website, experiment, grab some code, and combine it with ours. So with changing the color of our header, how about we do some cooler things now? We see our buttons are looking pretty plain. They don't have any specific properties to them, and let alone they don't even have any color. So how about we look up how to do some coloring in our buttons? So what I'm going to do is type W3 Schools. And guys, W3 Schools is an amazing website. I would highly recommend if you want to learn some other cool things on your own time. They have a bunch of resources. They literally have a tutorial for every single thing. So I'm going to do is W3 Schools and then type in button CSS. Let's see what pops up. The first link. All right, so it looks like they have some code about our CSS and how we can style our buttons. Very interesting. So let's browse through these and take a look if any of these are the ones which we want to add. How about these rounded buttons with the radius? These look pretty nice. Let's see how they added those. Okay. All right. So how about we identify our buttons? So although right now we have a type given to our buttons, we have to add a class in order to make sure that we can reference them in our CSS. So what I'm going to do is do class equals digit buttons and then closed quotation marks. Everybody quick way to do that. Hit run, make sure everything is good. And now what I'm going to do is that before we go any further, just make sure that our CSS is working correctly. So unlike referencing an ID tag, in order to reference a class tag, like we did right here, we have to do dot and then the name of our class. So digit buttons, open and close squiggly brackets like such. And what I'm going to do is go to the website. Looks like they have a nice block of code for CSS of how they made it look nice. Going to use that. Paste it down here. Let's see how that looks. Okay. All right. Adding some color. That's good. Good progress. And how about we also add the property in order to round and curve our buttons. Add that to the bottom. Let's see how our button looks like now. Oh, if you can slightly notice a very subtle difference, if I make this bigger, how about we make it 10 pixels? Our button is much more curved. Looks very smoother and nicer, right? And I will drop the link to this website, guys, so that you can also follow along. I realize if you cannot find a link, totally fine. It is in the chat now. All right. Now, one thing is that this button is green. That contrast looks a bit to say the least, right? So how about we look up some hex codes, essentially an identifier for a certain color. So how about we do a color like, we'll search up hex codes for blue. Look at some different shades of blue. Which one do we want to utilize? How about we go with light blue? What I'm going to do is copy that hex code. It's ADD8E6. ADD8E6. Run that. I think that looks a bit better. What other shades do we have? We can go with cyan, 00 quadruple F. It's like 00, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit run. Pretty similar, it seems like. So I guess we will go with, let's see, are there any better colors? Let's go with crystal blue. How about we do that? So the code for crystal blue is 5C B3FF. Paste that right here. Hit run. Looks like it is not being recognized. One second, guys. Looks like it is not refreshing. All right, there we go. That looks nicer with that contrast. All right. So we have our, essentially what I did was change the text color to the color of black in order to add that contrast between our color and the digit. Now, our button for sure does look much nicer compared to these teeny white buttons for our numbers. But how do we apply this styling property to the rest of our buttons? Well, in order to do that, all we have to do is simply copy this class and essentially paste it so that it can be applied to all of our buttons. So I'm just going to do is go through all of the number buttons, and add this CSS property. And then if you would like, you can also add it to the operations, but I'm going to add some different type of color for our operation buttons. All right. And then we got 6, 7, 8, 9. Like such. And there we go. That's looking much, much cleaner. Give everybody a quick minute to catch up. All right, and now we have to do some nice styling for our operation buttons. So if you guessed it, what I'm going to do is firstly create a class for operation button. So I'm going to go right here, add some spacing right there. Class identifier, I'll call it operation buttons, like such. And now essentially we can apply the same mentality. So I'm going to copy this CSS block, add the dot before the name of operation buttons. And now we can change the color of our operation buttons. So if I hit the button run, if I go back to this website, which had the color of greenish, select that. So if you go with, how about we go with light blue for this operation button. Hit run. Still not being recognized. That's weird. Okay, so let's go with the color they provided of this green color. Copy that. Oh. There we go. Copy that. That is very interesting. So it looks like it's not being updated. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make sure that I got everything right. Let's copy that CSS block, paste it back. Hit run, and it seems like our code is not updating. That is interesting. 1 second. Oh, I spelled buttons incorrectly. Hold up. There we go. Okay, so I missed the letter T. One thing which is very important, guys, is when we are referencing our button or any other type of ID or class tag, we have to make sure that the spellings are always the same. So make sure you don't make that mistake. And there we go. We can see that our operation button, like this addition symbol, is now green, adding some contrast right there. And I changed up the color of our digits. I made it gray. You can change it to light gray, whatever pleases you. So if I make it light gray, it looks like that. Whatever you'd like. If I go with dark gray, that adds some more contrast, like such. All right, so now essentially what I'm going to do is add a property to make this a rounded button. Add a radius. We'll do 12 pixels. Hit run. There we go. It's our nice and a rounded button. And if you guessed it, the way we're going to apply this property, the CSS property, to the rest of our operation buttons is going to be referencing and making sure that the class of all the operation buttons is called operation button. So I'm going to do is copy that class and paste it into all of the operation button HTML elements, like such. There we go. A bunch more looking nice. Oh, looks like I forgot about the number 0. 1 second. So assign the number 0, the digit buttons class. There we go. And that is looking much nicer already, right? And we got one last button, that being the equals button. If we want, we can simply set that equal to the operation buttons, CSS property. So same thing, just paste that class name in there and set it equal to the operation buttons like such. Pull that up. That's looking really, really nice, right, guys? As compared to what we started with a white and black background, not looking that clean, but now with some colors, adding some nice styling to our calculator. And one last thing which we can do, guys, is make this our display tag a bit larger. So let's see what we declared it. I believe it has the ID of output. So what I'm going to do is go right here, do hashtag output. Remember, since we are using the hashtag because we are referencing an ID, and then opening close parentheses, and then we can do font size. I'll do like 12 pixels. Let's run that. Oh, that's a bit small. How about we go 20 pixels? Hit run. That is much bigger and nicer. There we go. So if I type my numbers in now, looks much more bigger and easier to comprehend, right? Also, if you would like, we can absolutely give our output tag a color. So I'll say color, make it we'll make it dark blue. Hit run. There we go. And one key thing as we are going through our CSS, guys, is that make sure to add a semicolon after, just like we are required to do in JavaScript. All right, and that should make our calculator look really nice. There we go. As we can see, we got our nice rounded buttons with nice colors going on top of them, with the calculator headline having some color. And if I run, play this through 96. If we do 96 times 5, 480, confirm that, make sure our calculator is working correctly. 96 times 5 is indeed 480. So that concludes this week's lesson for actually typing some code out. It was not the intense week with JavaScript like we did in the week past when we were adding a lot of logic, making our calculator button. This week was just meant to sort of as a laid back week. We got to work on our CSS code, make it look nice. And now, guys, we have officially finished this whole calculator project. And next week, we'll be starting a new and even funner project. And yeah, glad you guys kept along with me, followed along. As always, if you have any questions, you can always ask me. If you got lost, a finished copy of the project will be posted in the classroom. And as a quick sneak peek, our next project will be a hangman game. Not going to talk about it too much today because we have gone on for pretty long, but let's get our minds thinking about a hangman game and what concept we will utilize for that. But yeah, guys, for next week, I will be creating a submission spot on the Google Classroom. If you want to maybe show your calculator and how you style it, we can definitely do a little bit of a show and tell next week if you guys would like. And then otherwise, we will be getting started with our hangman project. As always, guys, hope you guys had a great time today, learned something awesome with that fun fact, and we're able to apply some CSS to our calculator, coming a full circle, guys, finishing this project, which we started almost 5 weeks ago. But it was a heck of a ride, a lot of fun with you guys. Glad you guys joined us. If I might be catching you this Friday, maybe, with Teen Trivia, you can always sign up. We have a great time kicking off our weekend with some Teen Trivia. But guys, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See you guys.